name is Detective Grayson with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Today's date is December 11th, 2008, and the time is approximately 3:42 p.m. I'm here at the Orange County Corrections Center at the BRC Center, and I'm with Lieutenant Tammy Uncer and also Detective Heather Casper is in the room. Lieutenant Uncer, we were asked to come down here to speak to you because you had a chance today, I guess you can say, to where you learned about the case dealing with Kaylee and Casey Anthony, about the news break that they did locate a body at this point of a child, and I believe you were asked to escort the defendant in the case down to see the medical staff. Is that correct?
Correct.
And can you just describe to me what occurred from that point or before that point, an approximate time and all, from what I know it's approximate because you don't have it right now.
11:35, 11:36 in that time frame, we took her down to medical to view the TV and see what was happening prior to her attorney getting here. And plus, mental health staff was waiting for her so they could also observe her and be there if she needed mental health counseling or services. She walked into the medical clinic and immediately looked at the TV, which was on Channel 9, broadcasting the breaking news, and she collapsed into the chair and started to what appeared to be hyperventilating. She lost her breath. We told her a couple of times to take some deep breaths. She got real shallow breathing. Her hands started to sweat. She started rubbing them profusely. She was in waist chains and handcuffs, and she kept saying the waist chains are getting tighter and tighter. I mean, please loosen them. And we told her we couldn't because we knew they weren't tight when she sat down in the chair. She didn't make direct eye contact with the TV, but maybe 2 or 3 times. She kept her head buried in her lap. She never appeared to be crying, but continued to breathe very rapidly, very fast. Her hands started turning red. She started getting red blotchy palms. At one point she did have me look at her hands, and I felt them, and they were kind of warm, sweaty, clammy kind of feeling. The bumps obviously were not raised bumps at all. It was all underneath the skin. And she had red blotchy splotches all over her chest area and lower neck.
Was the audio on the TV?
The audio was on the TV. She was listening to it.
What were they saying, or do you remember what they were?
They were talking about the location. They were talking that they had found a body of a small child. Right now, that it was a quarter of a mile or something like that to the Anthony home. The body was that of a small child. At that point, they weren't definitely saying. She definitely heard all of that. She was very tuned into listening to what the TV was saying, but was not focusing on the TV. This went on for about 10 minutes when mental health said, we think she's had enough. At that time, we escorted her into a conference room, a medical room, where the psychologist talked to her, and I was present in there while he was talking to her. And his main concern was to make sure she wasn't going to do any harm to herself. He asked her not to talk about the case because he didn't want it brought up while he was in there. She was still breathing rapidly. She did continue to tell the two of us she would not hurt herself. I told her our main concern was care, custody, and control of her. Didn't care what was going on. I needed to make sure she was going to be safe, not injure herself. And she's like, no, I won't hurt myself. But she did ask for a sedative, which we did relay to the doctor on duty. And she did get a sedative about 1:45.
Is that normal for her or not normal for her?
Not normal for her. That is, in fact, the first drug she has taken while she is in jail. I don't even think she's taken Tylenol.
Very odd for her to ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Very, very odd. And I asked her if she'd ever taken meds outside of the jail for stress or for anything like that. And she's like, no, the most she's ever taken is muscle relaxants. After the psychologist left, she said, is my attorney coming? And I said, we assume he's on his way. I don't know for sure. I will get one of the COs to find out. She goes, well, will you sit in the room with me because I don't want to be alone. Throughout that time, she was still breathing rapidly, talking really fast, but not nothing really about the case, just that, you know, this isn't surreal, I can't cry, I can't break down and cry because this isn't real. And then she started talking about football. Yeah, off the subject.
Okay.
She started talking about the national championship. At that point, her attorney came, and that was about noon, I think he got here. He came, she went into a room with him, we stood outside the room and watched. He was here for about an hour and a half, to about 1:30. He told her what he thought and what had occurred. She did break down and cry in there. We could see that she was crying. He asked for tissue. She definitely was holding her head in her hands, crying. Her back was to us, so I couldn't see her facial expressions, but you could tell she was crying. Again, breathing rapidly. Medical came and did give her a sedative. She did settle down. They continued to talk. He took very little notes, and he was in there like 45 minutes before he even opened his notepad. So when he left, he said he'd be back later on tonight to see her. At that point, took her back to her cell. We cleaned her cell out because she's on psych ops right now. Took all her property out of her cell except reading materials. We left. Miss Pat, one of our mental health counselors, came back to talk to her because she wanted to talk to Miss Pat. And when I left the area, about 2:45, you could tell she had been crying in her cell with Miss Pat. I did stick my head in and told her I was leaving just so she would make eye contact. I could see what her disposition was. She was back to normal breathing. She did look like she had been crying. But other than that, that's about it.
How was her demeanor when she left from her attorney?
She was shaking when she got up to leave the interview room, and I took her back to her cell. We stood there while the CO gathered up all her things out of her cell, because we like to have the inmates make sure we didn't take anything. They know everything that went in the bag. She did ask at that point if she could take a shower to make her feel better. She said the sedative helped settle her stomach. She didn't feel so sick to her stomach anymore. She took about a 10-minute shower. At that point, I couldn't see what she was doing in the shower. Could only see, the top of her head. But she appeared calmer when she came out of the shower, and then Miss Pat came to see her.
Have you ever seen her react that way before?
No.
So that's the first time she's ever reacted so strongly to anything.
Yeah. Prior to today, most of my conversation with her was she was weird to talk to. She's very, not cold, I don't exactly know how to explain it. A non-emotional would probably be the best way to say.
So today was definitely different.
Definitely different today.
Okay.
First time I'd ever seen emotion on her.
Okay. Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear everything you said in this statement is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and then you can read. It's now about 3:50 p.m.